Hello and welcome to Prague. My name is Dana Kapitulčinová and I work here in the Charles University Environment Center. This is one of the university buildings and it is partly hotel and partly a research office space. This is also the place where we held one of the TEFSI workshops on innovative teaching for sustainable food systems. So let's come and have a look inside. So we're now inside of the university building and this is the place where we held the TEFSI workshop in Prague in February 2020. We had several colleagues from the TEFSI consortium who came and gave lectures about the innovative teaching methods that were presented to us. And we also had a lot of practice of the methods. So we really focused on not only giving the theory, but also directly practicing out the methods with our colleagues. So let's have a look at what was on the program. So on day 1, this was a 3-day workshop, we focused on the course design. This means how to design a course so that it is really useful for students and they practice different skills and competencies. And we were introduced to the ABC model for course design and we had both theory and practice of the course design. On day 2, the workshop focused on new ways of teaching and group work processes. So we were introduced to methods such as flipped classroom or theme-centered interaction, the fishbowl, which I will talk a little bit more about later. And we also had in the afternoon case-based teaching examples from the TEFSI consortium. And there we focused on action and experiential learning approaches, then on various approaches to student work with companies, for example, on national dish of how to design a sustainable dish and creative problem solving. On the last day, on day 3, the workshop focused on giving feedback, and this was both giving feedback from the lecturer to the students, but also on peer feedback between students. And the second part was focused on online platforms and e-learning available at Charles University to our lecturers so that they know how to use electronic teaching, e-learning, and I think this is more and more important in these days. One of the methods that was very popular in the workshop and that was introduced to us was the so-called fishbowl method. And this is a discussion method. It is very useful for practicing both discussing and listening. And it was introduced to us by Professor Karola Strasner from Minster University of Applied Sciences.
In essence, the fishbowl is the short name we give to a method for discussing with groups of people. And the reason we like to use it, and you'll see from the way it's done, is that it allows a dynamic element. So there's activity even though we're discussing and we're sitting. And it also allows for interaction between members of the group. So it's not one person, it's not like a dialogue, but it's between the group of people that are discussing a certain topic. And it's a method that you can use for very many different kinds of topics. So it's not limited, say, to a natural science or to a social science. It's not limited by the science or the discipline at all. It's very much more just a means of engaging, and you can really use it for very many topics. And the reason why we include it here is because the field of sustainable development is one that is so open to many discussions on many aspects. So it's a useful technique to gather and collect ideas, topics, discussions, perspectives, and opinions. And it's meant to be able to hear different perspectives and opinions. So it's creating a room where you can give voice to your different perspectives, opinions, and facts. And so that's why we say it's particularly, but not only, useful for aspects of sustainable development. So that's the connection to the overall topic.
So the fishbowl method is really useful for facilitating discussion on various topics in various fields, and Carola gave an example of how they use it in their university.
We've used it, for example, in preparing for assignments. So typically in this master's degree that I was telling you about, where the students have an assignment that gets graded at the end of the course, that assignment involves a lot of research, and it involves writing, of course, and usually it's an individual activity that they do alone. So bringing in the topics when they've started finding their way around the topic into a discussion and connecting the points together is what would be an example of a pre-assignment activity that you can take into the lecture. So in your daytime interaction with the students, you could collect them and run a fishbowl with them connected to the tasks that they have for the assignment. But that's just one of very many examples that you could do.
To run the fishbowl, you need space. This could be your room where you have lectures or practicals. And you need a moderator. That would be usually you, the university lecturer, or you can invite someone also. That depends on you. In the room, you need to make a circle of chairs in a way, and this should be about 12 or 15 chairs. It depends on the group size, how many students you have, so you can adjust this. And you need to make a circle of chairs in a way that you still have space behind the chairs for people to move around. At this point, you can prepare this before the class, or you can also ask your students to help you out to set up the room. And then you need to divide the group. You can do this by asking people to take the seats inside, or you can say 1, 2, 1, 2, and the first sit and the second stand. So some people from the group will sit on the chairs. You can also choose to leave 2 chairs empty, or you can fill them in. That is really up to you. And the remainder of the people will stand around the circle behind the chairs, like this. Now the important thing is that only the people who are in the so-called fishbowl, now here, so these are the fish, let's say, only those are allowed to speak, to discuss. So there is an active discussion in the middle, while those people around the circle, they also have an active role to play, and they need to actively listen to the discussion. So active listening, sorry. And you start the discussion. The students can start with their own questions, or you can throw in the questions. You need to steer the discussion a little bit depending on the group and the aim of the discussion. And those people around need to listen to that discussion. Now these 2 empty chairs are important because at some point or any point in the discussion, when someone from outside of the circle feels like they would like to contribute to the discussion, they are not allowed to speak outside the fishbowl. They need to come in. So at some point you will fill in the fishbowl. It can also happen that further people can come in, so they need to tap on the shoulder of someone, and that someone will need to leave while this person will come in. So there is a lot of dynamic in the discussion, and people learn to really actively discuss, but also actively listen to what is being said. So this is how the activity works. What is very important is that after you conclude with the discussion, to do a debrief session. This means that the moderator will ask the students, what did it feel like to be in the discussion circle? What did it feel like to be in the listening group? And what were the main learning outcomes? What did they get from the discussion? So after the short theory, participants of the TEFSI workshop got a chance to also try it out in practice.
They are smaller groups where they actually have a contract with peers, because I will also introduce some peer feedback.
So they get an idea of the topic and I get an idea what they are interested in. And then at second, when we start to work, then we say we want to work in another kind, then we do such contracts.
The discussion of the lecturers in the TEFSI workshop continued, of course, but this was just a short example of how it could look like in practice. We have also heard from one of the Charles University lecturers who took part in the workshop that he used the fishbowl method in his teaching right away with a great success. So I hope that you now know how the fishbowl discussion method works, and I encourage you to try it out in your teaching where it seems suitable. You can also learn about more teaching methods, about innovative and new methods that were presented as part of the TEFSI trainings at our website, at the project website www.tefsi.eu. And we wish you all the best in your teaching for sustainability.